Hello and welcome back my channel, the space where language learning meets self-mastery. I'm really glad you're here today because this episode isn't just about vocabulary or grammar. It's about something deeper, something that affects how you show up, not only in your conversations, but in your work, your relationships, your mindset, and ultimately in the way you live your days. Let me ask you something right up front. How often do you start your day without checking in with yourself first? No. Seriously, think about it. Do you wake up and immediately grab your phone, check your messages, scroll through notifications? Maybe your feet hit the floor before your brain is even caught up. One moment you're in bed, the next you're already responding, reacting, rushing, and it's not just you. This is the norm for so many of us. But here's the thing. When you start your day on autopilot, you hand over the steering wheel before you've even decided where you're going. It's like jumping onto a highway without knowing your destination. Or worse, it's like opening your laptop with 17 tabs already running in the background, slowing everything down before you've typed a single word. So today, I want to offer a different approach, a new mental operating system if you like, one that begins with an hour or even just a few quiet minutes of conscious self-connection, what I call a deep self-sync. This is your time to recalibrate, to get your mental compass pointing in the right direction before the noise of the world takes over. It's not about perfection or about creating some Instagram-worthy morning routine. It's about developing a daily ritual grounded, realistic, and personal that helps you align your mind, your goals, your priorities, and your emotional state before you start doing anything. Now, if you're thinking, I don't have time for that, or that sounds too abstract, I get it. We've been trained to measure productivity in terms of output. How many tasks you checked off, how many emails you replied to, how busy you were. But what if you shifted the question from what did I do today to who was I today? That's a deeper metric. That's the kind of reflection that builds self-awareness, resilience, and real progress, not just movement. In this episode, we'll explore what it means to sync with yourself before syncing with the world. I'll walk you through the different layers of this 1 hour ritual, from mental clarity to emotional tuning to goal setting to reshaping your inner dialogue. Whether you use this as a guide to structure your mornings or just as a way to reflect more intentionally during the day, my hope is that you'll begin to feel more rooted in your choices and less swept away by external demands. And along the way, of course, we'll use rich, real English, language that reflects the complexity of thought and emotion, not just textbook phrases. Because here on Code Your English, we don't just learn English, we use it to better understand ourselves. So, take a breath, drop your shoulders, let the noise settle just a bit, and get ready to explore what might just be the most important meeting of your day, the one you have with you, the noise. We wake up to, let's be honest, most of us don't wake up in peace. We wake up in noise. Not just external noise like traffic outside the window or the distant hum of your neighbor's blender, but internal noise. The moment your eyes open, your brain starts buzzing. Maybe you're already thinking about that meeting you forgot to prepare for, or that message you didn't reply to last night, or that feeling of guilt or pressure or tension that you can't quite name. But it's already there, sitting quietly in the corner of your mind like an unwanted guest. This is what I mean when I talk about the noise we wake up to. It's the chaos we carry into the day before the day has even begun. And for many of us, the first thing we reach for in the morning isn't stillness, It's our phone. Think about it. Before you even stand up, you're already scrolling. Emails, notifications, group chats, news headlines, Instagram stories, maybe a few voice notes that feel urgent even though they're probably not. And just like that, you're not waking up on your terms. You're waking up on everyone else's. This is the default mode for so many people. Waking up and immediately entering a reactive loop. That phrase, reactive loop, means you're responding automatically to whatever grabs your attention first. You're not leading your attention. Your attention is leading you. You're not choosing your focus, it's being hijacked. And that's the perfect word for it, hijacked. Your mental space, your ability to think clearly and feel grounded, gets stolen before you've even had the chance to claim it. Now, let's put this into a real concrete example. Picture someone, maybe it's you, waking up around 7 a.m. The alarm goes off, still lying in bed. They unlock their phone. There are 3 Slack messages from a coworker who's working in a different time zone. One of them says, "We need your input on this as soon as possible." There's also an email from their manager marked high priority and a calendar invite for a meeting they didn't know about. Then there's a news notification, something about another crisis somewhere in the world. Suddenly, the heart rate goes up, the jaw tightens, and all of this has happened before breakfast. This person hasn't even spoken out loud yet, but their nervous system is already activated. That's a key phrase to hold on to. Nervous system activation. It's what happens when your brain and body are preparing for action, often before there's been any conscious thought. You're not choosing to feel stressed. Your body is doing it for you automatically. And that automatic reaction is what we refer to as autopilot. It's when your behaviors and even your thoughts start running without deliberate control. Like a plane flying with no pilot in the cockpit, you're going somewhere, but you're not really sure how or why. Here's the problem. When your day begins in autopilot, it's much harder to course correct later. The tone of your morning sets the tone for your afternoon, which often influences how you feel in the evening. And the cycle continues the next day unless you choose to interrupt it. But it's not just about being busy, it's also about what you're still carrying from yesterday. Maybe you had a difficult conversation the night before, or maybe you went to bed with a heavy feeling, disappointment, frustration, loneliness. That emotional energy doesn't just disappear while you sleep, it lingers. Psychologists call this emotional residue. The leftover emotional states from past experiences that stick to you like fog on a mirror. If you don't acknowledge them, they follow you into the next day, quietly influencing your mood, your focus, and even the way you speak to people. Add to that the constant overstimulation we face, not just from digital devices, but from the pace of modern life itself. We're exposed to more information in a single day than some people used to encounter in an entire week. And because of that, our minds are constantly juggling, switching between tasks, notifications, responsibilities, worries. It's no wonder we often feel scattered and unfocused. At this point, maybe your mind feels like a browser with too many tabs open. You know the feeling. One tab is playing music, but you can't figure out which one. Another tab is frozen. A few others are things you forgot you opened, and yet you keep clicking around, hoping something starts working properly. That right there is how many people live their mornings distracted, fragmented, tired before they've even started. But here's the good news. Awareness is already a step toward change. When you can recognize that you're operating in this kind of noisy, reactive space, you can also begin to choose something different. You don't have to live in those open tabs forever. You can close them one by one, gently, intentionally. So the question becomes, what kind of morning are you waking up into, and who decided that? Was it your intention? Or was it someone else's urgency that took control? In the next part of this episode, we're going to look at how you can interrupt this cycle, not with dramatic changes, but with small conscious pauses. Because the goal isn't to eliminate the noise entirely. That's impossible. The goal is to make sure you're the one choosing the volume, the power of pause. After everything we've just talked about, the mental noise, the emotional residue, the rush to react, you might be wondering, what can I actually do about it? I mean, the world's not going to slow down for you. The emails will keep coming, the notifications won't stop, and your schedule probably isn't going to magically open up to give you 2 peaceful hours in the morning. That's where this idea, this power of pausing comes in. And I don't mean something as complicated or dramatic. I'm not talking about going off grid or waking up at 4 a.m. to meditate on a mountain. I mean something much simpler, but no less powerful. The choice to take a few moments, just 5 minutes, even two, to interrupt your automatic patterns, to press pause before you press play on your day. Here's what most people don't realize. A pause isn't passive. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing something different. It's a conscious interruption, a way of saying before I enter the world, I want to enter myself. In psychology, this is often called presence, the state of being fully here in this moment, not lost in thoughts about the past or anxieties about the future. When you practice presence, even for a short moment, you remind your brain that it's safe to slow down, that it doesn't have to be in defense mode, that it can respond instead of react. And that shift from reactivity to intentionality can change everything. So, why does this matter first thing in the morning? Because that's when your mental state is the most malleable, the most open to influence. Think of your morning mind like soft clay. If you touch it gently and shape it with care, it will hold that form throughout the day. But if it gets thrown around, squeezed by stress, or pushed in random directions, it'll harden in chaos. And you'll carry that shape with you into your work, your relationships, even your sense of self. That's why the pause matters. It creates a pocket of clarity in a day that might otherwise feel like a blur. It gives you the chance to arrive, really arrive before the world starts asking for your attention. Now, what does this actually look like? In practice, it could be as simple as sitting on the edge of your bed with your feet flat on the floor and taking 3 slow, deep breaths. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. No music, no phone, no checklist, just a moment to feel your body, to notice your breath, to remember that you're here. Or maybe you want something a bit more structured. You could try visualizing the day ahead like a blank page, completely untouched. Not a to-do list, not a calendar full of meetings, just white space. Ask yourself, how do I want to fill this page? Not just with tasks, but with presence, energy, values. What kind of tone do I want to set? What kind of person do I want to be in this day? For others, the pause might include breath work, a simple technique like box breathing, where you inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold again for 4. It sounds mechanical, but what it actually does is send a message to your nervous system. You're safe. You're in control. You can handle this. These are small actions, tiny even, but don't mistake them for being weak. In fact, there's something incredibly powerful about doing something small, but deliberate in a world that constantly demands you go faster, harder, louder. When you choose stillness, even for a minute, you're reclaiming your space, your time, your energy. And let's talk about silence not as emptiness, but as openness. Silence is often misunderstood as a lack of something. No noise, no conversation, no action. But I want to offer a different idea. Silence is not the absence of sound, it's the presence of space. Space to think, space to feel, space to notice. It's like the white space in a painting, the part that gives the colors room to breathe. Without that space, everything feels crowded, overwhelming, compressed. So when you pause in the morning, even for a few minutes, you're not stepping away from life. You're stepping into it more fully. You're choosing to start from the center instead of the edge. And when you do that consistently, over time, your baseline changes. You begin to notice your habits more clearly. You catch yourself before you spiral into stress. You make decisions from clarity, not from pressure. Now just take a moment, even now while you're listening, to imagine what that pause would feel like. Imagine starting your day not in a rush, not in a panic, but in a state of calm readiness. What would it feel like to open your eyes, take a breath, and meet your life? Not as something to survive, but as something to shape. That's the beginning of the self-sync ritual. Not doing more, but doing less, more consciously. Because when you start with presence, everything else, your focus, your goals, your emotional state becomes easier to manage. You stop running from yourself and you start moving with yourself. So tomorrow morning when the alarm goes off and your fingers reach for your phone, pause just for a breath, just for a thought. That pause might feel small, but trust me, it's the beginning of something big. Syncing your mind, mental clarity, and focus. Now that we've made space by pausing, by breathing, by stepping back from the noise, we can finally begin the real work of syncing. And we're going to start where it matters most, with your mind. Not just what's on your to-do list, but what's on your mind. So let me ask you directly right now as you're listening. What's on your mind? No need to overthink it. What's the first thing that comes up? Is it a decision you've been putting off? An awkward conversation you had yesterday? A deadline that's creeping up on you? Maybe it's something more subtle, a vague sense of stress or tension that you haven't fully identified yet. Whatever it is, this part of the ritual is about noticing it clearly and honestly before it starts running the show in the background. Because here's the truth. Just like your phone or your computer, your mind can get cluttered. Thoughts build up, sometimes useful, often not. And when you don't clear that mental space intentionally, it starts to affect your focus, your energy, and your sense of direction. Let's take a closer look at this clutter. For many people, the mind tends to circle around a few specific thought patterns, what psychologists call cognitive loops. One of the most common is rumination, going over the same situation again and again like your brain is stuck in a loop trying to solve a problem that has no clear answer. You might replay a mistake you made or worry about something you said or try to predict how someone will react to you. The problem is rumination doesn't usually lead to solutions. It just drains your mental energy and leaves you feeling stuck. Another common pattern is catastrophizing, imagining the worst case scenario before anything has even happened. For example, you might think if I don't perform well in this presentation, I'll lose credibility, or if I take a break today, everything will fall apart. These thoughts feel dramatic, but in the moment they can seem totally real. Your brain treats them as facts, even though they're just mental projections. And then there's perfectionism, that inner pressure to do everything right, to never make mistakes, to be productive, polished, in control all the time. Perfectionism can be sneaky. It often wears the disguise of ambition or responsibility, but underneath it's driven by fear. Fear of not being good enough, fear of being judged, fear of failure. And when that perfectionistic voice dominates your thinking, it's nearly impossible to relax because your mind is always scanning for what's missing or what's wrong. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know if I'm stuck in one of these patterns? And the answer is, you slow down and listen. You observe your thoughts like someone watching clouds pass across the sky. You don't have to chase them or argue with them. Just name them, label them, and ask, is this helpful? Is this true? One of the best ways to do this, especially in the morning, is through mental check-ins. This can be as simple as sitting down with a notebook and asking yourself, what's taking up space in my mind today? Let your thoughts spill out onto the page. They don't have to be organized or pretty. They just need to be seen. Some people call this brain dumping. Literally dumping all your mental tabs onto paper so you can stop carrying them around. Others call it morning pages, a practice where you write freely for a few minutes each day without filtering or editing. However you do it, the goal is the same: to clear away the fog and reconnect with your own mental clarity. Here's a challenge for you, and it might sound simple, but it's surprisingly powerful. Can you name the 3 thoughts most occupying your mind today? Just 3. You can even pause this episode for a moment if you want to do it right now. Write them down or say them out loud. Not the thoughts you wish you were having, like I'm feeling positive and ready, but the real ones, the ones that have been hovering in the background. This practice, identifying and naming your thoughts, might seem small, but it's a key part of self-awareness. Because once you know what's on your mental radar, you can start to decide what actually deserves your attention. You shift from being driven by your thoughts to driving your thoughts. And here's the beautiful thing: clarity often comes not from finding the perfect answer, but from asking the right question. When you take the time to sit with your mind instead of escaping it, you create space for insight. You start noticing patterns, the stories you repeat, the fears that hold you back, the distractions that pull you off course. That awareness doesn't mean those thoughts will vanish overnight, but it does mean they'll lose some of their power over you. And that is the beginning of mental freedom. So the next time you feel scattered, overwhelmed, or mentally noisy, remember your mind doesn't need to be perfectly clear to be aligned. It just needs to be seen, acknowledged, heard. In the next part of this episode, we'll build on this mental clarity and explore how to reconnect with something even deeper: your goals. Not just the things you have to do, but the reasons behind them, the why beneath the what. Because once your mind is clear, the next step is to point it in the right direction, syncing with your goals, conscious intention. Now that you've taken a moment to check in with your thoughts, to notice what's been circulating in your mind, let's take the next step in the self-sync ritual: turning your mental focus toward intention. And when I say intention, I don't just mean setting goals. I mean reconnecting with the purpose behind what you're doing, with the why that gives direction to your energy. It's so easy to move through the day checking boxes, completing tasks, answering emails, replying to messages, all without ever stopping to ask, is this actually moving me in the direction I want to go? In fact, modern life encourages this kind of automatic behavior. We're constantly surrounded by a sense of urgency, notifications that demand immediate attention, deadlines that feel like emergencies, and a never ending stream of responsibilities. It's easy to confuse being busy with being intentional, but they're not the same. This brings us to a powerful distinction: the difference between what's urgent and what's important. Urgent things scream at you. They're loud, immediate, and often imposed by someone else. Important things, on the other hand, tend to be quieter. They're the things that matter in the long term, the things that bring depth, purpose, or alignment. And yet, because they're not demanding your attention right now, they often get pushed aside. Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, illustrated this perfectly with his big rocks metaphor. Imagine you have a glass jar, and next to it, you have a few big rocks, a pile of small pebbles, and a bunch of sand. The big rocks represent your most meaningful goals, the things that really matter in your life. The pebbles are the medium priority things like meetings or minor tasks. And the sand, that's all the little stuff: distractions, interruptions, busy work. Now, if you fill the jar with sand first, there's no room left for the big rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first, if you make space for the things that matter most, the pebbles and sand can fit around them. The metaphor is simple, but it hits home. If you don't prioritize the important, the urgent will take over every time. So, how do we apply this to our mornings, to this deep self-sync practice? It starts by asking yourself one powerful question: what would make today feel deeply worthwhile? Not just what do I need to get done, but what would actually make me feel like this day mattered. It could be something professional, finishing a project that aligns with your long-term vision. It could be something personal, having a meaningful conversation with someone you care about, or something internal, staying grounded, present, and calm throughout the day, no matter what comes your way. Whatever it is, it's not about having 10 goals. It's about identifying one meaningful intention that you can carry with you as a kind of inner compass, a direction, not just a destination. Because goals, when they're rooted in intention, become more than tasks. They become expressions of who you are and what you value. Let me give you a practical image to work with. Imagine that your day is a ship and your goal is the compass. Without that compass, the ship still moves, but it might drift. It might go in circles. It might follow whatever current is strongest, whether it's your inbox, other people's expectations, or your own internal pressure to stay busy. But with a compass, with one clear intention, even if the waters get choppy, you stay on course. You remember where you're going and, more importantly, why you're going there. Now, a quick note here. Your goal doesn't need to be impressive. This isn't about productivity for the sake of looking successful. Your goal could be as simple as be fully present during dinner with my family, or take a walk without checking my phone, or approach today's tasks with calm instead of anxiety. These may not sound dramatic, but they carry emotional and mental weight because they reflect who you want to be, not just what you want to do. So let's pause right here, right now. If you were to choose one thing to focus on today, one big rock, what would it be? Say it to yourself, or better yet, write it down. You could even speak it out loud just to hear how it feels in your voice. What would make today feel deeply worthwhile? Let that question guide you for a moment, and if your answer isn't clear right away, that's okay too. Sometimes clarity takes a little space. The important part is making room for the question instead of rushing ahead without ever asking it. This is the heart of conscious intention, choosing your direction, not just accepting your default. Because here's the truth: if you don't choose your priorities, someone else will choose them for you. Your calendar will fill itself. Your energy will be pulled in every direction. And your time, your most limited resource, will be spent reacting, not creating. But when you sync with your goals from the inside out, everything shifts. You stop living by momentum and you start living by meaning. In the next part of the episode, we'll move from mental direction to emotional depth, exploring how to sync with your feelings before the world pulls you into performance mode. Because focus and action are powerful, but without emotional awareness, they can become disconnected, and we want to stay fully connected. Mind, goal, and heart. Emotional alignment. Tuning in before tuning out. By now, you've slowed down, cleared some mental space, and pointed your focus towards something meaningful. But before you step fully into the flow of your day, before the noise ramps up and your energy gets scattered, there's one more layer to sync with: your emotional state. And this part is often the most overlooked. We tend to think that thoughts and goals are enough to keep us on track, that if our mind is clear and our tasks are lined up, we're ready to go. But what we don't always recognize is how much our emotions influence the way we think, speak, decide, and act. Whether we acknowledge them or not, our feelings are constantly shaping our experience, like an invisible filter over everything we do. So let's take a moment to ask a deeper question. What emotion is quietly shaping your day? And have you named it yet? This is where we begin practicing something called emotional literacy, the ability to identify, name, and understand what you're feeling. And not in a vague, general way like "I'm fine" or "I'm stressed," but with specificity, depth, and curiosity. This is sometimes referred to as emotional granularity, the skill of distinguishing between similar emotional states. For example, are you feeling anxious or is it closer to restlessness? Is it sadness or more like disappointment? Is it anger or actually frustration layered with fatigue? This level of precision matters because when you can name what you're feeling clearly, you're far more likely to respond wisely rather than react impulsively. You gain the ability to pause, reflect, and choose your next move instead of being swept away by a feeling you don't understand. Let's use a metaphor here. Imagine your emotions are like the weather. Some days are bright and clear, others are foggy, stormy, unpredictable. And just like the weather, your emotions are not something you can fully control, but you can prepare for them. You can learn to recognize the emotional climate you're entering and adjust how you move through it. If you wake up to emotional fog, a sense of heaviness, confusion, or low energy, that's important data. It doesn't mean something is wrong. It just means your emotional system is speaking to you. The mistake many people make is ignoring that emotional forecast or trying to push through it as if it doesn't exist. But here's the problem: emotions that go unacknowledged don't disappear. They just operate in the background, quietly influencing your behavior, your tone, your focus. That's what we mean when we talk about emotional residue, the lingering emotional energy from previous experiences that hasn't been fully processed. It's like emotional dust, invisible, but still affecting the air you're breathing. Let me give you an example. Say you had an argument last night. You didn't really resolve it, but you went to bed anyway. This morning, you're trying to get into work mode. Emails, meetings, focus. But underneath it all, there's this subtle tension. Maybe you're more irritable than usual, less patient, or perhaps your energy feels low, your motivation fuzzy. You might not even consciously link it to the previous night, but emotionally your system is still processing. This is where resilience comes in. Emotional resilience isn't about being unaffected. It's not about pretending everything's fine. It's about being able to feel what you're feeling without letting it derail you. It's about creating enough internal space to hold your emotions, reflect on them, and still move forward with clarity. And that starts with a simple habit: naming, literally saying to yourself out loud or on paper right now, "I'm feeling it," could be something small. "I'm feeling scattered," or something deep. "I'm feeling sad, and I don't know why." Either way, the act of naming makes the emotion feel less chaotic. You become the observer, not just the experiencer. If you want to take it a step further, try asking yourself, what does this emotion need from me today? If you're feeling anxious, maybe you need more structure. If you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe you need to simplify. If you're feeling joy, yes, even joy, maybe you need to lean into it, to protect it, to share it. Emotions aren't problems to solve. They're signals to pay attention to. And let me say this clearly, it's okay to start your day with mixed emotions. You don't need to force yourself into false positivity. You don't need to fix how you feel. You just need to know how you feel and make space for it in your rhythm, your decisions, your interactions. So right now, I invite you to do a quiet emotional scan. Ask yourself gently, what am I feeling right now? Really take a breath. See what comes up. Don't judge it. Don't rush to explain it. Just notice it. Name it. And if possible, accept that this emotion is part of your experience today. That one moment of awareness can shift your entire internal landscape. Because when your emotions are aligned, or at the very least acknowledged, you're no longer fighting against yourself. You move through your day with more empathy, more softness, and more integrity. In the next part of this episode, we'll bring everything together: thoughts, goals, emotions, and explore what it means to live from a place of inner synchronization. Because syncing isn't just something you do in the morning, it's a state you carry throughout the day. Rewriting the inner, dialogue, mindset, and beliefs. So far, we've explored some powerful territory, syncing your mind, your goals, your emotions. But there's another layer that runs quietly beneath all of that. It's not something you write down or schedule. It doesn't show up on your to-do list, but it shapes the way you move through every part of your life. And that's your inner dialogue. In simple terms, your inner dialogue is the voice in your head, the one that narrates your day, interprets your experiences, and gives meaning to everything you do. Sometimes it encourages you, offers insight, or helps you reflect. But other times, it criticizes, compares, doubts, or distorts. It tells stories about who you are, what you can or can't do, what you deserve or don't deserve. And the tricky part is most of us don't even notice this voice. It's so familiar, so automatic that we treat it like truth. But here's the thing. Just because your mind says something doesn't mean it's true. Thoughts are not facts, they're habits. They're often inherited, shaped by childhood, culture, past experiences, fear. And if we don't pause to examine them, they quietly become the lens through which we see ourselves and the world. Let me ask you something and answer honestly, even just in your own head. If your mind were a mentor, what kind of advice is it giving you? Is it kind? Is it wise? Is it supportive? Or is it always rushing you, doubting you, criticizing you before you even start? Many of us are walking around with what psychologists call limiting beliefs, quiet convictions that shrink our sense of possibility. Beliefs like, I'm not ready, I always mess things up, I'm not disciplined enough, or nothing ever works out for me. And the problem with these beliefs is that they become self-fulfilling. If you believe you'll never follow through, you're less likely to take risks. If you believe you're not creative, you'll hesitate to express yourself. If you constantly tell yourself you're behind, you'll never feel like you've arrived, even when you have. So, how do we rewrite that inner script? Not by pretending everything is perfect, not by using empty affirmations like, I'm amazing or everything is fine, especially when it doesn't feel that way. The goal here isn't to lie to yourself, it's to speak to yourself truthfully, but with compassion, not cruelty. Let's try reframing. If your mind says, I'm not ready, pause and ask, what would I need to feel more ready? That question turns self-doubt into curiosity. If you hear yourself saying, I never stick with things, try adding, but I'm learning how to follow through, and today I can take one small step. That's not denial, that's growth-oriented thinking. Another simple but powerful technique is choosing affirmations rooted in reality. Not sugar-coated, not exaggerated, just grounded truths that support the version of you you're becoming. Phrases like, I can do hard things and I've done them before. I don't have to be perfect to make progress. I am allowed to learn, to try again, and to grow slowly. I am not my worst day. I am not my loudest fear. Try reading one of those out loud. How does it feel? A little uncomfortable? That's normal. Most of us aren't used to being spoken to gently, especially by our own minds. But with repetition, compassion becomes a habit too. Here's a useful metaphor. Think of your inner dialogue as an operating system. If your system is full of old code, outdated beliefs, critical loops, self-defeating scripts, your daily experience will reflect that. You'll run into the same errors, the same crashes. But when you start rewriting the code, updating your language, questioning your assumptions, choosing a more empowering narrative, your entire internal experience begins to shift. And when your inner world changes, your outer world often follows. One practical suggestion: start paying attention to tone, not just what you say to yourself, but how you say it. Would you speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself when you make a mistake or fall behind? Probably not. You'd encourage them. Remind them of their strengths. Offer some perspective. Try giving yourself the same courtesy. That's not indulgent, it's responsible, because your mindset affects everything. Your creativity, your resilience, your relationships, your health, and the tone of your inner voice sets the emotional climate for your entire day. So, as part of your morning self-sync, take a few moments to listen to your inner voice. Don't judge it. Just notice, what's it saying? What beliefs are running the show today? And are they helping you or holding you back? Then, just like we did with your thoughts, your goals, your emotions, make a small shift. One phrase, one reframe, one sentence of truth spoken with care. It doesn't have to be loud, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be conscious. Because when you change the story you're telling yourself, you change the way you show up in your life. In the final part of this episode, we'll bring everything together, tying these layers into a full self sync ritual that you can make your own. Because this practice isn't just about reflection, it's about creating alignment that lasts beyond the morning, designing the day from sync to strategy. Now that you've taken the time to sync your mind, reconnect with your goals, tune into your emotions, and gently reframe your inner dialogue, you're standing at a powerful crossroads. You've done the inner work, the deep, thoughtful alignment that many people rush through or skip altogether. And that gives you a remarkable advantage, a clear, centered, and resilient foundation from which to design your day. But here's the key. Syncing yourself isn't the finish line, it's the starting point. Because the real test and the real magic happens when you translate that internal harmony into external action. When you move from alignment to strategy, from feeling ready to doing with clarity, calm, purpose. Think about this for a moment. How often do you begin your day feeling scattered or overwhelmed, and then try to make decisions or tackle tasks on autopilot? Without that internal sync, your mind and body are like a car with a full tank of gas but no steering wheel. You have energy but no clear direction. The result: frustration, distraction, and sometimes burnout. On the other hand, when you approach your day from a self-synced state, your decisions become sharper, your energy feels more manageable, and your execution flows more smoothly. It's as if the noise inside your head has quieted enough for you to hear what truly matters. So, how do you take this feeling of alignment and turn it into a practical daily plan, one that supports you without boxing you in? Let's start with a simple but powerful framework. I encourage you to identify your top 3 priorities for the day. These aren't just any tasks. They're the things that, if you accomplish them, will make your day feel meaningful and productive. This keeps your focus narrow and intentional, preventing the endless to-do lists from hijacking your attention. Next, do an energy check. Ask yourself, how am I feeling physically and mentally right now? This is important because your energy levels will influence how you approach your priorities. Maybe you're feeling alert and focused, so it's a great time to tackle complex projects. Or perhaps your energy feels low or scattered, and it makes sense to schedule more straightforward or creative tasks that don't demand intense concentration. Alongside this, I recommend a boundary check. What are the limits you need to set today with your time, your attention, or your emotional bandwidth? Boundaries are crucial for protecting your self-sync. They help prevent overcommitment, distractions, and overwhelm. Maybe that means turning off notifications for certain hours, saying no to extra meetings, or carving out moments of quiet during the day. And here's where the balance lies. While structure is important, flexibility is your ally. Life is rarely predictable. Unexpected things will come up. Your mood might shift. Energy levels might dip or spike. So it's vital to treat your plan as a living document, something you can adjust with kindness toward yourself, rather than a rigid schedule you must adhere to no matter what. I want to invite you to shift how you view your day altogether. Instead of thinking of it as a conveyor belt where you're just moving task after task in a linear mechanical fashion, imagine your day as a canvas, a blank creative space where you have the freedom to paint your experience, blend colors, add new strokes, and change the picture as you go. This metaphor speaks to the heart of what syncing is really about. It's not about perfection or control. It's about presence, intention, and flow. When you treat your day like a canvas, you're acknowledging that you are both the artist and the observer. You have the power to create a day that reflects your values, your energy, and your vision, even if it changes along the way. So, here's your closing invitation for this step of the ritual. Before you dive into action, take a moment to draft your top 3 priorities. Check in with your energy. Notice any boundaries you want to uphold, and imagine the day as your canvas waiting for you to add your unique, thoughtful brush strokes. Remember, this isn't about rushing or cramming. It's about designing your day so that it serves you, not the other way around. When your internal world and your external plans align, you create a synergy that supports sustained focus, resilience, and satisfaction. You're not just moving through tasks, you're orchestrating a day that feels coherent, balanced, and deeply yours. And with that, your 1 hour deep self sync ritual is nearly complete. As we reach the end of this journey together, this hour dedicated entirely to syncing with yourself, it's worth pausing to reflect on what you've just done. Because let's be honest, an hour might feel like a small investment in a busy day, or it might seem like a big commitment depending on where you're coming from. Either way, the truth is that even partial practice matters. You don't have to complete every step perfectly or check off every box for this ritual to make a difference. In fact, the power of self-sync comes from the simple act of showing up, from giving yourself the space and permission to pause, breathe, notice, and realign. Sometimes just a few minutes of conscious awareness can ripple out into the entire day, shifting how you move, how you think, and how you feel. Change, after all, is rarely dramatic or instantaneous. It's layered, gradual, and often subtle. It's like recalibrating an instrument. You don't tune a guitar all at once. You adjust each string bit by bit, listening carefully and fine-tuning over time. Similarly, syncing yourself isn't about chasing perfection or transformation overnight. It's about cultivating a habit of returning home to yourself, no matter how many times life pulls you away. Throughout this episode, we've explored multiple facets of this ritual: the importance of pausing amidst the noise, clearing mental clutter, reconnecting with meaningful goals, tuning into your emotions, reframing your inner dialogue, and designing your day with intention and flexibility. Each layer builds on the last, creating a more coherent, resilient, and compassionate internal ecosystem. But perhaps the most vital insight to carry forward is this: stay curious about yourself, not judgmental, not critical. Curiosity is the gateway to understanding. It allows you to notice patterns, recognize limiting beliefs, and witness emotional undercurrents without getting stuck or overwhelmed. So, next time you catch yourself rushing, reacting, or spiraling into that reactive loop, pause and ask, what's really going on here? Without the pressure to fix it immediately. This invitation to notice without judgment is itself a profound act of self-care and empowerment. And remember, this ritual isn't a rigid prescription. It's an evolving practice, one that you can shape to fit your unique rhythm, needs, and life circumstances. Some mornings you might spend a full hour in deep sync. Other days, just a few mindful breaths or a quick check-in might be enough to recalibrate your inner compass. Before we close, I want to leave you with a question, one to carry into tomorrow and the day after and beyond. What would it feel like to start every day feeling deeply connected to yourself before the world gets its hands on you? Imagine that, beginning with a clear, centered presence that's yours and yours alone. A presence that isn't dictated by the noise of notifications, the urgency of endless tasks, or the pull of external expectations. Instead, a presence anchored in your own values, your own emotional truth, and your own intention. That kind of connection, that kind of self sync, isn't just a morning ritual. It's a way of being, a foundation for resilience, creativity, and authentic engagement with the world. So, as you move forward, I encourage you to carry this intention gently in your pocket, to come back to it whenever you can, and to remember that this practice, like any meaningful change, unfolds one mindful moment at a time. Thank you for sharing this hour with me here on my channel, a space where language meets life, reflection meets action, and your journey toward clarity and connection is always welcome. Take care of yourself, and until next time, keep syncing with kindness, curiosity, and courage.